are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shemaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shemaya Reed.
Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. We are here once again. And today, we have another show lined up for y'all today. Today, we're going to talk to an amazing book author, an amazing person, Carmen Englert. She has a book that you can get right now on Amazon or her website. It is called 7 Pathways. And first and foremost, we're going to learn more about Mary's story. So I want to welcome you to the show this morning. Say, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me on your show. I'm very excited to talk to you and learn more about your audience and connect with those San Antonio folks. So I went to school in Texas for college, so I love Texas. So
nice, small world. So before we dive into your book, like I said in the intro, you're an author, but you're more than an author. You also are a speaker, a ministry leader, and you also, like you say, you went to college in Dallas. Is that right?
I went to college at Baylor University, and then I went to seminary at Dallas Theological Seminary.
So tell the audience a little bit about yourself, because you have done some pretty amazing things.
Oh, well, you're too kind. Well, thank you. I'm a native Nashvilleian. I have, I just have a story like many of you. I'm a, normal gal that grew up in a divorced home and started really seeking the Lord at a young age. So that was a bit different. That really was life-giving to me at a time when I really needed some help, and I didn't want to grow up becoming an angry person, basically. Kind of had one of those choices in life. We all face those. And I thought, I can become angry or I can learn about forgiveness. And that's what I chose. So that's just a little bit about that. But so the greater picture of my story is I have, worked in education, fashion. I love beauty. I love design. I love the Lord. I love children. I worked in education. So this is really a bringing together of many of my worlds, 7 pathways, so to speak, because it involves education. It involves all of you. It involves, growing nearer to the Lord through these pathways, which has been so life-giving during my journey. And that it began even 16 years ago, which a lot of people don't know, when I started working on the pathways. And that was just a year after seminary. And I was really longing to grow deeper with the Lord. And I thought, reading the Bible and praying and, just doing the normal stuff. But I thought, there are other ways that people throughout history have, and some of those that I've mentioned in the 7 Pathways book and speak about on each chapter, such as song, confession, thanksgiving, and a number of others, and scripture meditation as well. And I thought, I'd love to work on something using those pathways while studying a book of the Bible. And so that's really where it began, even though I just taught a couple of classes on it and then put it aside for years later until I really went through this journey, a health journey of having a lot of pain and chronic pain, which turned out to be a cancerous tumor. It took many years for them to figure out what I had. So this really brings together my worlds of, again, just I love beauty, and I love the creator of beauty. And that has been a passion of mine for years as well. And then, people like growing in your faith and connecting with others, whether it be education or speaking. And, I'm just on this journey, and I'm here to share mine and help you and all of, we're all here. It's a community of faith. That's the way the church is designed to be. And we're designed to help one another. And it's just me telling my story to help you share what I've learned, and you telling me yours. And we're journeying together as we walk with the Lord. As it began in the garden. One of the first things that the Lord did after He created this world after 7 days, and what do we see Him doing? He's walking with his creatures. He's walking with us, and that's what He wants to do with us. And that's what 7 Pathways wants to do. We want to walk with you as you journey, and we want you to know the hand of the Lord that walks with you and that will hold you in those hard times and guide you through those hard times. So that's a little bit more about, who I am. So, thank you for asking.
Thank you for telling us. Once again, we're talking to our guest today, Mary Carmen Englert. She is the author of the new book titled 7 Pathways, Ancient Practices for a Deeper Relationship with God. This book was released on August 1st, so you can go to Amazon. Let's dive into this book. So I know there are 7 practical ways to deepen your relationship with God. So kind of share with the audience a little bit about your personal health journey and how that influenced the writing of this book.
Sure, yeah. So as I mentioned, I had started this about 16 years ago. And again, it was just, hey, I saw a need in my own life for these pathways. And then in 2018, I fell into the door frame of my car, and just kind of one of those freak accidents, you bump your head. I mean, we've all done that a number of times and, don't think anything about it. Well, I started getting a lot of head pain. And then a couple of months after that, I started getting more, my face and my neck, and saw a number, 10 plus or more doctors, because the pain was, quite in different parts of my head. And so they were trying to figure out through imaging what was going on. And nothing was coming up. So I was diagnosed with something which is more of a nerve pain called a disorder, bilateral ossipital neuralgia. And so I just thought that's kind of what I had, and just was, making the best of it, trying to, do DPT and all those things. But it was really difficult. And during that time, I also had a life-threatening allergic reaction, and that caused a lot of swelling, issues with breathing, various things that caused them to give me way too many steroids, and led to a number of health issues. And just the short of that really is, because I was given too many steroids, it caused a lot of issues digestively. It also caused more pain. I had a frozen shoulder, part of my back. I was waking up every hour and a half. Wasn't able to sleep very well at all. A little bit narcoleptic. When I would close my eyes, I would start to fall asleep. A lot of really scary things. And then as I would bend, it would hurt to even bend my knees. And I was a very healthy person. I've exercised regularly since I was about 25 years, 3 times a week, whether it be walking, cardio. I've always done weights for about 25 years, light weights. So as a very healthy individual to all of a sudden not be able to move and function and sleep. And that was really difficult. And during that time, that's when I started continuing to have more head and neck pain. And again, it took a long time and misdiagnoses with that neuralgia type of issue to then finally discover, after I had COVID, I got keratitis, which is an infection in my parotid gland, which is one of the major salivary glands. And it didn't go away. It got better, and then I still had swelling. The infection went down, but then I still had a lot of swelling in that area. So then they discovered through imaging that I had a tumor. It did not show up at first because it's a tumor that is very rare. It's only 3 to 5% of the population have this form of cancer. It's called a senescent cell cancer, although it does progress into other forms. It's very hard to diagnose because the cells mimic traditional cells, so it hardly showed up on imaging as far as CT did on an MRI. So all these years, it's turned out I had a tumor lurking, and I just didn't have the right imaging for a long time, and also it was blown off by some people that were like, oh, it's not an ENT issue. And it actually was an ENT issue. And I just had to get to the right doctors. So it was, it was very frustrating. It was also very hard because I was, praying, I was seeking, I had lots of people trying to help as well. And just kept hitting doors. So during that time, that's when I started just sitting in more silence more and praying more in much longer periods of time than I ever had in my whole life. Because that's what I could do well. I could I could sit and be silent, and I could pray. And so that's kind of where the story began. And then in the morning, when you don't feel good, one of the best things to do is to listen to music and start, instead of your mind first going to the things you can't do or the to-dos for the day or losses or any disappointments. Instead, I would start listening to music. And most of the time it was Christian, sometimes classical. And what it does, it resets my mind. It reminds me of the goodness of God. It reminds me of all those wonderful things in life and God's faithfulness and hope and other people's stories. It gets you out of your head. And it's like someone, it's like someone being in a room and really waking you up and speaking life to you, almost like when you're a kid and, when you're little and your parents, they come in your room to wake you up before you get your first alarm. It's kind of like that. It's like someone speaking life and truth into your morning and into your first thoughts of the day. And so that was so helpful. And then moving into Thanksgiving, that's the very first pathway. And that's what I started doing because there were so many things I could not do. It would be very easy to focus on the negatives of life, what was taken away, what I'm missing. And instead, God was like, I want you to focus on the good things you have in your life. I want you to see some things you still can do well. And I want you to readjust your pace of life as well. And so that is a little bit how the 7 pathways began. But in the midst of the journey, they were so life-giving to me. These became my daily rhythms every day. Because again, when you deal with chronic pain or you have an unclear diagnosis like I have, it can be really difficult to function in normal capacity. A lot of people don't understand that. So in order for me to deal with this, and then also to hear from God, like, what are you doing during this time? I had to get quiet. And that's what a lot of these times of pain and suffering, God wants you and me and all of us to get quiet so we can hear what purpose he's speaking through the pain. Because there's always purpose, and there's always a lot of unveiling of wisdom, a lot of reordering of who you are and what he wants to, how he's renewing and making you more the person he's intended you to be. And there's a lot of love there. I mean, I'm not kidding. There's been so much love in the midst of a lot of pain, that there's special times that it's almost like those moments in life that you're like, oh, I can't believe that he really showed up in that capacity. And just the right song came on. I got this note that spoke right to exactly what I needed to hear. Or I was praying for someone and we started seeing movement in their life. It's just encouraging. I knew I was a part of a larger story. And that's what was so key about praying for others. And that was a huge part of one of the pathways as well. And it was not just praying for myself. It was praying for others. I spent a lot of time in that. And then again, that's a part of the 7 pathways plan. Each day, there's a structured plan and guidance of what to pray for in that day, whether it be your immediate family, extended family, friends, community. That was really essential in my journey because that's what we're called to do, to walk with each other and to pray. And the power of coming alongside of somebody and what God is doing in and through their lives is a gift to be a part of. And it's very, for me, I found it very encouraging. I felt like I was accomplishing something when I couldn't accomplish as much work, but I was accomplishing something by praying for different folks and then checking in and hearing, how it was going. So that's a little bit more of how these pathways have been so, again, just life-giving, And I just think it really will give people a plan of how to engage with God. And because there's so many resources out there, there are millions of podcasts, lots of Bible studies, many ways that you can engage. But we all still struggle with, okay, well, then I've done this next one. We're so westernized that we just think about reading and praying on. But we've forgotten some of these others along the way that the church has historically practiced, and so has Jesus, such as thanksgiving, silence, confession, scripture meditation, and then just the art of music as well, in addition to prayer and Bible study. All these things are ways that we can connect with God. So I'm just giving people a plan. Basically, it's a plan that's worked for me, that others have used, and you can adjust at your own pace. Again, this is not meant to be rigid, a checklist at all. If you've experienced it on our website, which will launch in a couple of weeks, the Journey Through John, using the 7 pathways, in which we have prompts each day. And it's designed to be a 6-week study if you do the workbook version, which is on Amazon, or you can go at your own pace on the website. And again, it's either one chapter of John or half the chapter with each one of the pathways. We give guidance for confession, song recommendations related to the theme for the day, application questions, prompts also for confession related to the day. And if you don't finish it all that day, then that's fine too. Then it'll pick back up where you left off, and it'll build up over time. But these are just ways for you to connect with the Lord more and grow in your relationship with God and engage in Scripture through these beautiful ways that God has designed for us to connect with Him.
Once again, listen to Refocus Radio, talking to our guest today, Mary Carmen Englert, and we're discussing her book that you can get on Amazon is 7 Pathways, Asian Practices for a Deeper Relationship with God. So let's zoom in on that. We heard you kind of go through the different pathways, but let's zoom in on the deeper relationship with God. I say sometimes, our pain are other people's medicine. And for you to stay upbeat despite what you're going through, how have you learned to keep that peace and joy? So that way you're never, settling down and, have the right to be angry.
Right. Yeah. Oh, that's such a great point. It can be really easy to slide into anger and allow those roots to grow more instead of staying in a state of more peace and finding joy even in pain. I'm so glad you asked that question. Again, for me, I think it goes back to, I've had a history with the Lord. So He's someone I know. I know Him well. So when you know somebody well, such as even a parent, if you're close to a parent and they've taken good care of you throughout your life, you know that parent doesn't intend this for harm. And I knew him and know him well enough to know that he would not have allowed all this if there wasn't a greater purpose. So for me, and I've like many of you, I've had a lot of hardships too. Life has not been exactly the way I've wanted it to be at all, but I've had a lot of choice. So for me, when I think of pain and suffering such as this, I know that those are moments where I can experience His hand of love more and His comfort more. And I was looking for the greater purpose, if that makes sense, too. Finding the purpose in the pain, so to speak. Because the Lord, even in the Bible, He talks about that, how He uses all of our pain so that we can comfort others. And that's in James, that we are comforted so that we can comfort others. And also just knowing the way life is because the world is fallen and because there is sin in the world, then we are going to experience pain and suffering. I'm not immune to that. No one is immune to that. And when you're a Christian, you're not immune at all from that either. And that can be a misconception. So it's all seasons of life with God. And finding joy in that for me was finding his hand in it. And it was also looking for the joy in each day. And that's what I did through spending time with the Lord. And even, for example, in praying for others, that honestly brought joy. And then taking silent walks too with the Lord, getting outside and looking at the creation. It just reminded me that we have a really big God. We have a really big God. Doesn't have limited resources. Like a lot of folks may think, God's a distant God. The world is just driven by technology and all these other things. And they forget about the one who created all these things. It makes everything possible. But he's a really magnificent God. I know my God's not limited by resources. And so I was looking for, so to speak, looking for the beauty and looking for the light in the darkness too. And so, but I'm a person like that. I mean, even when I was younger, I didn't get into one club in college, and instead I got an application for the next one and started applying to another club right away. I was like, okay, fine. I'm gonna join another club. So I'm the sort of person that knows too that God has plans and purposes for his creation, because he says that in his word. So I'm gonna look for the purpose and the plans, and not let too many closed doors or disappointments of life take me down the tunnel of regret, take me down the tunnel of life is so bad, I don't know how I can get through this. I mean, a lot of people in the Bible suffered terribly, and so did Jesus. So it's a part of the mix in life, but there's purpose in it, and God will be faithful to go with you through it. And that's what I mean by the hand. There's a hand that holds and a hand that leads and guides. And also the last thing I will say about this is very important, is to accept the place where you are. Accept the situation you're in and look for God in the situation. Don't try to be somewhere else you're not. And I would tell people, I saw it as God's hospital. I literally imagined myself at night in God's hospital with lots of other folks in the hospital. And he would go around each night and, check on us and watch over us at night. And then we get the care that we needed throughout the day. But I had to function like someone in God's hospital. Even in my regular life, I had to readjust my life so that I could press through this pain and do things that would help pain and suffering, such as walking, praying for others, resting, eating, not looking on social media all the time, not focusing on what I couldn't do. And then I started working on the 7 pathways, believe it or not. It was crazy. People really thought I was going to give up on the project, or no, I really started working on small steps at a little bit at a time. I would read a chapter. Actually listen to a chapter. I had a lot of head pain, so I'll listen to the chapter. Then I would voice text in a couple of questions. Then I'd cycle through the whole book. Then I would listen to another chapter. Then I would next write a prayer. I would cycle through each one of the pathways, going through that process of listening, or later on reading the chapter. So God showed me small steps that I could take, even during a time of really struggling physically as well. I mean, it doesn't hurt to wash my face, brush my teeth. I mean, just things that you take for granted in your life. So I just was trying to basically find ways to work around it. God can work around anything. When he says in the word that nothing is impossible, that's what he means by it. That he can work around any obstacle you might have, anything that you think is a hindrance or a weakness. God reminded me one morning when I was laying in my bed, when I was really feeling one of those low moments, through a song by Lauren Daigle. And it came on, and 2 days in a row in the exact same place in the song. And I didn't set it. It was just on the radio. And it said, when you feel weak, you are strong. And that's just what that's what God was reminding me of. Like, when you feel weak, you're actually stronger because I am helping you. I'm speaking to you. There's the weakness. Your strength is not dependent on your accomplishments, what you know. It's dependent on me, and it's dependent, meaning God, it's dependent on Him, and it's dependent on your listening to Him and dependency on Him. It's a lot about listening and hearing and then implementing those things. So, and that's what I've learned through this. A lot of this is a lot of listening, which we all can be better listeners, especially in our culture nowadays. Listening is super key, but listening to the voice of God, and through the Word, and through prayer, through other people, other believers, community of faith, the church, solid biblical teaching church. So that's a little bit more of how those were really have carried me through and continue to be those ways that I hold and walk with God each day. So,
once again, listen on Refocus Radio, talking to our guest, Mary Carmen Englert, and about her book that you can get right now on Amazon is 7 Pathways, Ancient Practices for a Deeper Relationship with God. And in wrapping this up, there's something I was looking at while you were talking, and not to be too spiritual, but, since we're on this topic, might as well share it. In the Bible, Matthew 11, verse 28, Christ talks about when we are weary and carrying our heavy burdens, He will give us rest, and that His yoke, is not something we should worry about because it's easy, and He will give us what we need, and I feel like He will give us enough to get us through the situations of life.
Absolutely.
And He will never allow us to experience something that we can't handle. And sometimes we'd be like, well, man, this is kind of tough. But at the same time, it's beyond our control. And when we learn to release what we can't control, He will take care of everything else.
Yes, absolutely. The Lord can give you rest, and that's what I love. I love that verse. It's when we sang a song on that when I was younger. That was one of my favorite verses. That God can make your burden feel lighter because He helps carry the load, and that's what I did experience. That the load was being lightened because He was the one who's carrying a lot of the load as well. He was helping me carry the load and bear the load, and also something related to that too that I love is that. Not to forget that the Lord is the one who's fighting for you. The battle is the Lord's. It talks about that as well. So remember, there is someone that He's fighting for you every day as well. He's in the Spirit prays for you as well, and that was also very comforting to me as well during that time. But I love that verse that you mentioned, that He'll give you rest, because I did long to have rest, especially when in the situation that I was facing, because I couldn't sleep very well at all. And that's what we all need, that kind of soul rest. And that's what I hope through the 7 pathways, and particularly the time with silence and prayer and confession, through these, that your heart and soul will find, you'll find the rest that you're looking for, which comes through knowing the hand that will hold you and that doesn't give you more that you can handle. So just remember that it's just a reach away. And when I was at a low time, I remember visualizing literally a car, I was in this car and it was like flipping. And then I reached up, and then this branch literally just for a branch, and it pulls me up, like pulled up. So you have to remember God is closer than you think, and he's just a reach away. The hand that holds you is not far. So look for the hand. So, and reach out. So
I remember someone told me before, sometimes we think we wait on God, but he's really just waiting on us. And he knows how to stop us when he needs our attention. So with that said, if you're looking for a tool to handle life's difficulties, I recommend you get 7 Pathways, Ancient Practices for a Deeper Relationship with God. The author, Mary Carmen Englert. Anything you'd like to say our audience, call to action, how they can support what you do, and any last words?
Oh, yeah. I would say, number one, move towards God. Again, I think I love what you said as far as nothing can be better than taking just one step. So take small steps, and 7 Pathways is here to help you. We're here to help you take small steps towards God. We're here to help you reach out to God when, again, it can be very overwhelming in this landscape of all the resources out there. So check us out, 7pathways.com. Go to Amazon, grab the book, 7 Pathways, Ancient Practices for a Deeper Relationship with God. And then if you go to the website, you can experience the 7 Pathways through a 6-week study, or again, that's in the workbook version, which is on Amazon, or on the website, you can go at your own pace. And that's a great resource to just do by yourself and spending daily time with God through each one of these particular pathways and through a book of the Bible. So we've given you a way to just connect with God in the Word through these pathways. And we hope to next year release another study using the 7 Pathways model that I've designed through a different book of the Bible. So I would just encourage you to join the journey, connect with God, find the refreshment, as we talked about, rest for your soul. We all need that soul rest, and grow. And that's what we're here for. We're here to help you. 7 Pathways is here to help you connect, refresh, and grow in your life. And that's what we want to do for you. And just grateful for this time. Thank you for having me on your show. I'm just grateful for any opportunity to share about 7 Pathways and just to be a help and a resource for people. So thank you so much.
You've been listening on Refocus Radio, talking to our guest, Mary Carmen Englert, and you can get her book, 7 Pathways, Ancient Practices for a Deeper Relationship with God. Once again, I want to say thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.